Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You join me today with Charles and his fantastic 991.1. Charles, thank you for taking the time to speak to me today.
My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about your car, mate. It's a cracking colour.
So God's Red 991.1 2013. I've owned it since October last year, so about 8-9 months. It's a Carrera S, but it has what's called the Porsche X51 power kit on it, which increases the brake horsepower to, I believe, around about 430, which is similar to, well, same as the GTS, I think.
Yeah, my understanding is normally it's what, it's a 3.8 litre that's in the S, but it's a 3.4 that's in the normal one.
3.4 in the normal one.
It's about
correct.
345 brake horsepower versus 300 or 400 brake horsepower.
And this is 430.
Because of the X51 power pack.
X51 power kit.
Excellent.
And it's got the aero kit as well. And it's, it's kind of a daily driver for me.
Brilliant. So you actually use it on a daily basis?
I do
then,
indeed,
yes?
yeah.
Wonderful. So what made you go for the 991.1 then?
So for me, it was the normally aspirated engine. The last of the normally aspirated engines, a bit like the 993, last of the air-cooled. And we've mentioned earlier that when I say my wife, before I met her, had a 993, and we had a 993 for a period of time. So I enjoy the end of the era thing for that. And the aspiration, the normal aspiration was...
Because the 991.2 introduced a 3-litre twin turbo one, and essentially this is the sort of the last of the naturally aspirated ones before the modern Porsches come in.
Exactly.
This one's obviously a lot larger than the 996 that I brought with me in the 997, so it is the precursor to your most modern Porsches these days, but it still has a little bit of that classic charm, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's very much a modern car, but it does have that sort of, I suppose, harking back to the previous era. It's very usable. I enjoy it. As I said to you earlier on, you can sit in this car pottering along if you want to, but if you want to move on with a little bit more vigour, it's got the power to be able to do that.
And that's the joy of it, is that you can daily them, but if you want to take it to a track, you can do. And that if you want to overtake, you've got the power available to you, and you're not going to be left wanting with these, are you?
No. And it's 430 odd brake horsepower. It's enough. There's enough power for me. I mean, I know there are plenty of other cars that have got more, and as we get more modern, the power increases, particularly electric cars. I mean,
of course, yeah.
But again, for me, I want something that's engaging, fun, and has a bit of soul, and it does sound great. The engine does sound amazing.
I'm looking forward to hearing it when we get out onto the road. I'm really looking forward to seeing how much Porsche's improved over the 20 years since, or the 11 or 12 years since mine was
released. It still
released.
has the odd rattle here and there.
They always do, don't they? But as you were saying about the weight, the reason cars are getting more powerful is because they're getting heavier. But from my understanding, this is around about 1,400 kilograms, which makes it actually lighter than the 997 in some aspects.
I think with this iteration, they utilise lighter materials. I think there is, and I'm no expert when it comes to this. I just enjoy driving the car, but I think there's a lot more things like aluminium. So it's certainly a lighter car in terms of the build. They obviously have got bigger. It's bigger on the inside. I was looking at yours, and it is definitely wider.
Yeah.
And so you're not sort of. My son comes into. We commute to and from Edinburgh, and he's in the car with me, and he's getting bigger, and it's not uncomfortable. You don't feel
not squashed in. Yes.
And if you're not that this is a PDK, but if you were changing gear, you're not feeling the guys.
You're not elbowing him in the side every time you're doing it. Yeah, exactly. From what I was reading up, based upon the 997, I think this is about 32 millimeters wider, and the wheelbase is about 100 millimeters longer. Have you had the opportunity to drive other than your 993?
I have got a friend of mine who's got a 996, and I have been in that. It definitely does feel a little bit smaller, but I think sort of 996. That's probably the last of the real 911s. That kind of shape and that beautiful shape. This it's still clearly a 911, but they are bigger cars.
They are getting more bulbous, aren't they? But as you say, they've managed to retain that classic look that You could put the two of them side by side. It's got the wide haunches on the back there. It's got the big arse, which everybody likes to look at with a Porsche.
It's still a 911.
Yeah,
you know.
And even with the interior there, you've got the 5 dials that they've had across
which
everything.
I love. The analog dials. I know the more modern cars now have electric dials, but I love the analog dials. The rev counter right in front of you. You know, that's really lovely. I love that.
And with yours has got, is it the chrono pack?
Yes, correct.
That also comes with a little screen that allows you to change the sport mode.
That's right.
And it's got lap timers and stuff as well.
That's right. It's got the buttons down there. So you've got Sport, Sport Plus, PASM, which is the Porsche stability. So it lowers the suspension, and it's obviously got the sports exhaust and all of that stuff.
I bet it sounds fantastic.
It's great,
drives brilliantly, yes. So, will we hit the road and see how it feels compared to the 996 then?
Sounds great.
Excellent, nice one. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Perfect. The sound from that engine is just fantastic. It is absolutely beautiful. Hey guys, there we go. This is us out in Charles's 991.1. So Charles, tell us what it's like to drive on the road.
It's a pleasure to drive. It's been a step up for me. I've had all sorts of different cars. I've had classic cars, classic Jags and various other things. This is it's a completely different animal, really. The road holding is impressive. The performance is stunning. It's also, I was surprised. It's really comfortable. It's a really comfortable car.
It is, yeah. Yeah, certainly compared to the 996, there's less rattling, there's less creaking from the various bits of plastic across the dashboard and stuff, and yeah, it's just a really massive step up. Porsche, they managed to improve it for the 997, but you can see that they've even upped their game ever so slightly more with this one.
Yeah, I think there's a quality finish, etc. There's a couple of little rattles that I sort of notice, but it's definitely a different type of quality, I think, from certainly the car that I've been in, the 996 that I went in, and it's certainly more roomy as well. You know, in terms of a car for someone to sit in as a passenger. You know, I love the way they say it's got 4 seats. I mean, it's got 4 seats, 2 seats for kids. I mean, you're not going to get an adult in the back, but it's a comfortable car, and yeah, usable day to day.
I really like the driver focus of this. It's very, you feel encapsulated in the car, don't you? You feel like you're getting into it rather than on it.
Yes, yeah. You definitely feel surrounded by the car and feel part of the car when you're driving it, and the feedback is really good. I know a lot of people talking about the electronic steering. I've not really experienced anything other than this, obviously, because this is the only car that I've driven with this in it. But I find the feedback really good. I find the steering excellent, the handling excellent. So yeah, I think it's great.
How do you find the PDK gearbox? Is that fairly responsive?
It's really responsive. We're sat in traffic here now, but if we had a chance to let the car stretch its legs a bit, it's really responsive. And depending on what setting you have the car in, so you can have it in Sport and Sport Plus, it does speed the gear changes up. You can feel it.
And does that do anything to the suspension and the throttle response?
I think the PASM system here lowers the suspension and hardens it up. It's also got active engine mounts that when you turn Sport on it, you can feel it sort of hunkering down and, you know, getting ready to gird its loins, for want of a better word.
And again, it just adds into the usability of the car, doesn't it? The daily drivability of this particular car.
And the paddle shift gear change, the PDK, is great. To let the car, you know, really go for it, you can slot it into fully manual and change the gears on the paddle shift. It's great.
What's your sort of preferred mode? Does it depend on what you're driving?
Depends on what I'm doing. You know, as I say, I use this pretty much as a daily driver, so it's used as my commute to and from the station. I'll put it into manual and you know, let the car do what it's been designed to do.
Excellent. Yeah, have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the interaction of a. I mean, it's not a fully manual car, is it? And for the purists, they love the fully manual, but it gives you that ability to be able to downshift and have some fun with the car.
Yeah, my first experience in a Porsche was many years ago. I took a 996 turbo around Donington, but it was a Tiptronic box that was in that, and it let the car down ever so slightly. You didn't have as much control over it, and you didn't have the gear choice that you wanted when you wanted it. A 7 or an 8 speed?
7.
7 speed.
7 speed.
Okay.
And the whole point of having a car like this, isn't it? It's to enjoy the car, but also to be engaged with the car. And I find driving it in fully manual mode is obviously much more engaging and more fun to do.
You've got to be on it, as you say. It depends on the type of driving you're looking to do. Perhaps on a back road like this, it would be good if you're not stuck in lines of traffic. It would be good to be able to have that extra control of being able to blip down when you want to.
Exactly.
You're on a motorway, stick it into fully auto, and away you go.
And you've got cruise control, so you can push a button and the car will just do it all for you, pretty much.
Excellent.
So that's a nice thing to have.
And it's good that you've got those mod cons. You know, you would buy a car from this era and you would expect it to have that, but it's also nice that you can switch that stuff off when you want to.
Yeah. And you can turn off all the traction control and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm the first one to hold my hands up. I'm not probably a good enough driver to be able to literally turn all the nanny aids off and leave it to itself. I mean, that's just. Yeah, but it's there if you want to do it. Yeah,
that's the joy of these. And Porsche have really refined the experience over the last 10 to 15 years since the 996 and the 997's release. It's just such a lovely place to be. They are, as you were saying earlier on, it is a wider car, it's a longer car, and you do feel that in the interior. But that's a good thing because it means we're not sitting on top of one another.
Yeah, exactly. I do feel. I mean, when we had the 993 years ago, that was a much smaller place to be. It was still a comfortable car, but it wasn't I suppose as day-to-day usable as this is. And also a long journey, it did tend to get a little bit cramped.
Yes.
You know.
I can imagine, yeah. But there's so little in the 993 as far as the interior goes. It's very bare bones, whereas in this at least there's an element of safety. You've got airbags up there, you've got them on the seats and on the doors and everything, so having that additional layer of safety and comfort is reassuring, isn't it? Yeah,
and it's, as I say, I mean, I think in terms of the actual finish and the materials used in the 991, it's a step up from what was used before. And you've still got all the interactive stuff, so I've got my Waze on. I did actually upgrade this when I bought the car.
You can upgrade the 996 one as well, but I quite like the charm of the tape deck that's in there.
Have you still got some cassettes?
I don't have any cassettes, unfortunately, which is a shame too, because I have a 4 cassette holder.
I saw that in yours. You should make one of those mixtapes.
Yeah. To be honest, if I look through a box in my mother's attic, I'm sure there'll be some terrible old tapes in there for sure.
You've done for years ago, yeah.
Exactly. But no, this is absolutely fantastic. The trim on the A-pillar there is Alcantara.
Yes, yeah. The GTS version has an Alcantara wheel as well, again, this is the sports wheel, so it's a slightly different wheel, I think, to potentially what you can have. So it's got the chrome here, and it actually has a little light that comes up here and says Sport and Sport Plus.
Brilliant, yeah.
If you push the right buttons. It'll be interesting to see what you think when you drive it in terms of the steering, because yours is just a standard. I'd imagine it's a power steering system, but
it's hydraulic power steering, but there is definitely a weight to it. There's a heftiness to it that at slow speeds you do have to turn the steering wheel, but it does mean that the car is incredibly communicative. And certainly from what I've heard with them moving across to the electronic steering, is they've lost a little bit of that tactility. But I'm intrigued to see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, as you say, because I mean I've not really had any experience of what this was like previously, so it would be interesting to see what you think. I think the newer models as well, the 992, all have the same setup now, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think this is the first one that introduced it as far as the standard goes. And as we were talking about earlier on, this is the one that has essentially paved the way for all modern 911s moving forward, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, the 996, then 997. This iteration was pretty much a new car.
Yeah.
In a sense, but I still think it retains the Porsche 911, you know, DNA.
Yeah. Because ultimately, you've still got the engine in the back. There's still going to be, compared to other cars, you're still going to have that lightness in the front.
Exactly.
So do you find that you have to be conscious of, with it being a Carrera 2 and having the engine in the back, have you ever had any instances in the dry or whatever else where you've maybe pushed it a little bit hard, or is it a case that Porsche have managed to refine the process and the engineering and that you don't really have to consider it?
I've not had, the only time I've really had any sort of lights come on and traction control has been in the wet. And obviously, like any car, you've got to treat it with a little bit of respect.
Yes, exactly.
But in dry weather, I've certainly not felt it being skittish at all. With the 993, I definitely remember driving it, and as the weight came down from the fuel, it became skittish at the front. You could feel it. It just wasn't as planted as this is. And as you say, I think Porsche over the years have engineered most of the foibles of a rear-engine car out, and you still don't forget you've got the weight over the back, so the traction is phenomenal in all weather.
Yeah, I've found that you kind of adjust your driving style. You're going a little bit slower due to the weight, and then use that extra traction to propel yourself out of the corner.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've never tracked this car. And I might do one day, I've never, as you and I were talking earlier, again off camera, I've never done the launch control thing on this. I probably will one day just to give it a whirl, but for me personally, it's not my thing. I don't need to do that.
Well, that's it, is that they've only got so many launches in them before you have to start updating clutches, and I couldn't imagine that the gearbox and the clutch and stuff is going to be a cheap, easy fix should something go wrong in this. So you want to preserve the lifespan of it as much as possible, don't you?
Yeah, and I want to keep this car for a reasonable length of time. And for me, I think if you look after the car will look after you.
Exactly, yeah. Do you have much in the way of things planned for it, or are you just happy with it as is?
I'm quite happy to leave it pretty much as stock. I don't really need to do any mods on it. For me, it's perfectly fine as it is. It is a fairly rare car because of the various bits and pieces,
the options that you've got
that it's had put on it with the aero pack, and particularly this power kit that makes it fairly unique, which is nice. But no, I don't. I've got no need to modify it. That's some people's bag, and I absolutely respect it, but not for me.
That's fair enough, yeah. And how, I meant to ask you earlier on when you were talking about the sort of driving comparison between the 993, how does this compare as a driver's car?
I think this is it's certainly a more usable everyday type of car, and with that latent performance as you should need it. Is it as dainty as the 993 was when I drove that? I would say probably not. I mean, let's face it is a bigger car.
If you put them side by side, the sheer size difference, I think, would be instantly noticeable. Even at parked next to the 996, you could see how much, not bloated, but more safety, more precautious they've got over the years, and
they've got bigger and fatter.
Cars have.
Yeah.
To be fair, haven't we all, Charles?
Yeah.
At this
point? Absolutely. I do like the shape, and I think it does still retain that 911-ness.
Yes.
That DNA that takes it
broad
back.
shoulders, the thinness up front. What's your thoughts on the lights? Were you a man that was okay with the Friday headlights
I
of the 996?
didn't have a problem with those at all, actually, and I think as they age, I think people have become more. They've become more acceptable, actually.
I think so, yeah. I think they've actually aged quite well, and for me, I think they make it so distinct in the range. Because the 997 brought back the round headlights, I feel that the 996 is one of the, or if not the only, unique 911 out of the range, because as you say, they still have all of that inherent look. You can spot the haunches, the rear end, where they're trying to compensate for the engine, but the 996 stands alone in the lineup when you compare
I would
them to the
agree.
rest of them.
I think it very definitely divided opinion, didn't it, when it first
100%.
came out? And you know, the use of water cooling rather than air cooling was obviously a big thing. As one of the things that frightens me, and it's one of these typical examples of a car that got away in hindsight, is that we shouldn't have sold that 993.
You could never know that they're going to be reaching almost astronomical prices for the car.
Exactly.
They're up at nearly, what, 50,000, 60,000
I've seen, yeah. And, you know, once you start getting into the realms of the turbos and stuff like that,
course,
you know, I think you're into hundreds, aren't you?
Easily, yeah.
So...
Lovely sound from the engine there, isn't there? You've got the
great.
sport exhaust as well, so is that switchable if you want?
That's switchable, yeah.
That's good then. So again, you can, at least part of the driving experience is being able to hear the car, being able to experience it when you're in it, and having that option to turn off the drone.
Absolutely.
And the drowning noise when you're out on the motorway makes all the difference. Plenty pickup, you know.
Plenty of poke when you need it, let's put it that way.
Yes.
So,
effortless overtaking there for sure.
With the power kit, and the normally aspirated engine, the torque line I think on this thing is pretty good. I mean, I normally find if you're dropping it down a gear or two at 3,000 RPM, it's really picking up well, and you've got plenty of torque behind you to get past anything. And it's fairly linear, I think, in terms of the power delivery.
And that's the beauty of the naturally aspirated engine, isn't it? Is that you know that you have control over when that power's going to kick in. It's not like you're chasing it or you're getting into lag.
And then you get sudden thump.
Exactly, yeah. I would imagine the twin turbos will alleviate that somewhat. They'll give you a little bit more low-down control, but at the same time, you are still waiting for the turbo to spool up and kick in. And at least with the naturally aspirated ones, you know exactly where to hang around on the rev range.
Exactly, and you can keep it, you know, at maximum torque if you want to. I'd be really interested to drive a new one, 992. I mean, they are lovely looking cars, and I mean, as I said to you earlier on, I was at Thurleston earlier in the month and had a look at some of the GT3s. Amazing looking machines. Would I want one? I don't think so. In the age that I am at the moment and where I am in my life, it's just such a track-focused vehicle. I mean, they are stunning, they sound amazing, and they look amazing, and their abilities are legendary almost, aren't they?
Yeah.
But for me at the moment, this car suits me absolutely fine for what I want for my life at the moment. And I wanted this particular iteration of the car because it was the last of the normally aspirated engines. That for me was something it attracted me to the car.
It's almost an end of an era to some extent, isn't it? The 996 brought Porsche into the 21st century, and it's amazing how even in the 11 to 15 years difference there, just how much progression has happened during that point. And it didn't take that much longer for it to go twin turbo, but it's emissions, isn't it? It's emissions that ruin everything.
I mean, you know, any car maker has got to stick with the legal side of things, haven't they? So you're right. I mean, that's ultimately what the issue has been. But yeah, I mean, on a road like this, a flowing road like this, it's just a pleasure to drive.
It's very comfortable in comparison to even the 996, which is very driver focused. It's very poised. It makes you feel involved, but you are creaking over, you're rattling over things. It's very much because of the hydraulic steering. If you get caught in a rut on the side of the road, the car will pull and tramline into those types of things. Whereas I would imagine that at least the electronic steering just makes everything just a little bit more refined, a little bit easier to live with on a daily basis.
Yes, and I still think in terms of my feeling is the interaction I'm getting and the feel I get from the road and from the steering is still pretty good.
The sound from that engine is absolutely beautiful, and it's not too in your face, it's not too ostentatious.
No, and and as you say, you can obviously we can turn it all off, and you don't have that background drone and all the rest of it. We've got that on as well. So we're now having sports chassis mode, so we'll firm it up.
Okay.
You can actually feel it.
It has changed it actually, yes. It's amazing just how quickly that has changed the composure of the car. It does. It sounds absolutely fantastic. And I for one, I've never driven an air-cooled Porsche, but I love the sound of the flat six engine that are in these nowadays. I'm definitely looking forward to just seeing what improvements have been made and how it feels. I enjoy an automatic gearbox as well, as long as it's responsive and it gives you what you need when you need it. And I think from what I can gather, certainly it feels like it is.
How far do you want to go?
Yeah, if you're okay with turning around and giving me a shot, then that'd be fantastic. I'm looking forward to getting back down that road. Yeah.
We'll find somewhere to park.
And fingers crossed there's no more horse boxes or tractors. It's either a horse box or a tractor, isn't it? There's always something. So any modes you would recommend for me to experience when we get a little bit further ahead?
So if I was you, I'd try Sport and then Sport, put the PASM on. Sport Plus, just stick it all on, see what happens.
Okay. See what it's like first of all in standard mode and take it from there. But no, it's an incredibly refined experience from this driving seat, and the driving seat's quite comfortable. Are these sports seats or comfort seats?
I think they're the sports seats. So I think there are various different types you can get. This one's a bit. It's sort of kind of halfway house. Maybe.
Yeah, you've got a good bit of bolstering to keep you.
There's a bit of bolster, but again, I don't really want something that's really tight for me because I'm using it every day, and so I want something that's comfortable but gives you that little bit of support as well if you want to be so kind of flinging it around a wee bit. Think about the steering. I
was just about to say there is a lightness to it, and there's maybe a little bit of vagueness in comparison to certainly the 996, but I wouldn't say any more so than any other modern car that I've driven. The Focus, despite being a fairly modern car, that had a fantastic sort of readability of what the car was doing. You always knew what the front wheels were planning on doing, but with this, that noise, Charles, it's just absolutely invigorating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really does, and that's one of the main reasons for the buying the car was that noise.
But yeah, there is definitely maybe a little bit of lack of tactile feel from the front wheels. Maybe for me, I suppose, in comparison to the 996, where you know exactly where it wants to go, I would hold myself back a little bit with this one going into the corners, just because I would just question as to
not getting quite that same level of feel.
Purely because they're known for understeering, 996s, because of the setup on, or sorry, just 911s in general. They're prone for understeering, and I wouldn't want to get caught out, certainly. But no, it's lovely, and as a day-to-day car, it would be perfect. Yes,
exactly. For that, it's ideal because, it's perfectly usable on a day-to-day basis. It's not too heavy. It's not too light.
It's a good balance, for sure.
I think it is a good balance. I mean, there's no doubt that with the more analog type of system, you're probably going to get more feedback from it.
It's more that I feel that I have to turn this just ever so slightly more than I would do in the 996. But it's not a negative thing, for sure. It's then what point's the limit for me,
Yes. Yeah. I think it's like anything as well, is the more you drive it,
of course,
the more you become used to it, and the more experience you get with it to understand where those limits might be.
Exactly, yeah. And because I'm conscious that this is a Carrera 2 rather than a Carrera 4, I'm just conscious that the fact that we've only got power getting sent to the back wheels, which, because mine has that additional weight up the front, it does communicate a little bit differently than a Carrera 2.
And you've obviously got that little bit of extra grip.
And that too,
There's no doubt about that.
Even just that little
blip
there, you can just hear the change in the car. It's instantly wanting to rev a little bit higher, a little bit better throttle response. Jeezy peeps. And as you were saying earlier on, there's just zero hesitation with the car. It just wants to go and go and
definitely
go.
wants to go.
And through bits like this, I bet it just feels phenomenal. The weight transfer is really nice on it. They have managed to really fine-tune the fact that the engine is in the wrong place for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, exactly.
But at no point does it feel that it doesn't have the composure to do what it needs to do. It's an exquisitely drivable car, for sure. And even just those little things of putting the exhaust on and feeling the car hunker down.
Yeah, well, if we put the PASM on now as well, so that will tell you, excuse me, that it's dropping down that little bit more and it's hardening up a bit.
And the fact that your left leg's left doing nothing, you know, but you're still feeling engaged with the car. Yeah. There's no point that I don't feel like I'm enjoying the experience because I'm not having to do as much, and I think that's quite a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. You certainly, you know, let's face it, I think a fully manual car is obviously going to be more engaging because, as you say, you have to be doing more to drive it. And it's instantly, in some respects, more engaging, I suppose. But this is a kind of, for me, a really good compromise. You've
100%,
got that ability to change the gears, but at the same time, you've also got the ability to live in comfort of slipping it into automatic and just letting the engine
exactly, and the vast majority of time you're driving at 30 miles an hour. We're putting in a second, putting in third, sending fourth, back into third, in a second. It becomes tiresome.
It's always been quite well received in terms of the gearbox. It's the shifts are quick. You'll have seen that yourself.
Oh yes, without a doubt. And even it retains the 911.5 dials here. Fair enough, one of them is now a digital dial.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit hard to see, but you get all that information from the digital dial don't you?
But you can also scroll through what's on the digital dial.
Can you? Well, just through the steering wheel or via a little stalk.
There's a little lever, yeah. So there's various information that throws up on it. But yeah, you've got. I mean, I love that Porsche thing, the big rev counter in the middle. You know, the speedometer and everything else to the side, because the driver, you know, in my mind at least, if you're a real car guy, you're watching a rev counter. Really,
that's it. Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to be aware of what you're doing on the rev. But particularly in a car like this, because before you know it, I
could imagine. Yes. What sort of, have you ever considered taking it to the Autobahn to see what sort of top speed you can get out of it?
I certainly would. I mean, I believe these things are capable of nearly, I don't know,
170, 180 odd, yeah.
180 odd. I'd certainly be interested to give it a whirl.
Yeah, the sound of the exhaust just adds to the experience, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a very composed car, and the steering's nice. It is responsive enough for what you need it to be, and it's just a very nice experience to drive this car.
It's a pleasure to sit in the car and just be in the car. And as I say, just sometimes you just want to slot it into auto and put something on the radio and potter along.
And even there, putting the foot down ever so slightly, prior automatics that I've driven would kick down a gear because it's like, oh, you want to go somewhere, I'll kick down, but I didn't want to go that far down. You know, it is quite an intelligent system. It feels like it's intuitive. Yeah,
it's pretty intuitive.
Not that you buy a car like this for economy, but what sort of, how much do you get from a tank? What's your miles per gallon?
Yeah, fill a tank up, you probably get 360 mile is what it says.
Wow, that's not bad.
It's quite a big tank.
I was going to say, yeah.
You know, most German cars designed to, you're not having to fill them up every 100 miles.
Mm-hmm.
On a good run, with me being very fastidious in terms of my right foot, I've had 34 mpg out of it.
Excellent, yeah.
I can get it well below that.
No, of course, yes. Yeah, I reckon I'm probably around about 22-ish.
Right.
In the 996. My Forester STI was about 18 miles to the gallon, so it's an improvement over that at least.
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, you're not buying this as a economical car,
No.
are you? But again, on a long drive, on motorway speeds, it's returning 28 to 30. You know, that's acceptable to me.
Yeah, I take it when we're into these modes, it makes the throttle response a little bit better, because I am feeling that there's an almost instant pickup from the throttle.
It definitely makes a big difference, actually.
So, what do you love about it the most? What's your favourite thing?
The sound and the engine, I think.
Okay.
I just love that sound, and you know, I could happily just listen to that all day. It's great. I love it. And
it encourages you to push it a little bit, doesn't it?
It does, you know, sometimes. But that whole and it's the soul of that's what the soul of the car is, isn't it?
It is that flat six boxer engine,
boxer engine, normal aspiration. It's just a wonderful piece of kit, and mechanically it's fantastic. I just think Porsche sometimes I think a lot of people argue Jeremy Clarkson being a good case in point, you know, that Porsche it's so engineered. I don't subscribe to that. I genuinely believe that they get this right. I think the car is beautifully engineered. It is really well put together, but it has a soul, and it has the performance, and it has all the other things that Ferraris and all of the rest of them have. But also the beauty of this car is mechanically it's sound. It's usable,
unlike a Ferrari.
Usable. You know, I mean, my father-in-law had a Ferrari, and you weren't guaranteed the thing was going to start every morning.
Yep.
It was beautiful, it was stunning, and it sounded wonderful, V12. But it was very Italian, should I say that? And you know, it didn't engender real confidence that you're going to get from A to B.
You might get to A, but you might not get back again.
Yeah.
At least with the Porsche, you know that you'll get to where it is that you're going and be able to get back again.
Exactly.
And potentially get some luggage or some shopping in the back.
Well, that's the beauty of it, having the frunk. My wife and I are going away next weekend to go and stay with some friends of ours, and we can put two suitcases in the front of it comfortably, and it's perfectly usable. You know, that's what I like about it as well.
But no, this has been an absolutely fantastic experience, Charles. I appreciate you taking the time.
I'm hoping you enjoyed the car.
I have really enjoyed the car. The problem that it's given me now, Charles, is I'm like, ooh, how can I get my hands on one? You know, how do I move up? Because I think I would skip out on the 997. The thing for me is, I was never a fan of the round headlights. I think I prefer the older cars, the 964. I think the way that the front wings haunch up over them and give that almost frog-like appearance. I do like that look within the...
It's more classic as well.
It is, yes, yeah. Whereas they have had to tone it down for safety reasons and all that sort of stuff. It's not the nicest thing to bump off of if you're a pedestrian. But that's what appeals to me about the 996s, as I was saying earlier. It's just its distinctiveness.
Yes. Yeah. No, and you know what? I really like. I've always liked the 996. I've never had a problem with the headlights. I always thought, do you know what? That's actually really quite cool. I quite like it. It's something slightly different. Porsche were trying to do something different. Obviously, it's split opinion.
Yeah.
But again, I think in terms of the look of the car, it harks back to the original Porsches, obviously far more than the more modern ones.
Yes. Certainly from a chassis and a weight and a driving experience goes.
Completely.
Yeah, I've definitely enjoyed this. This has been a beautiful car to get to experience. I like the single clock that you've got there.
Yeah, so
it's
that's
really
the
nice.
chrono. I've never had you need to go to a track to be able to use that properly, because you can set it and then it times you, and then it does lap times and all that type of stuff. And it's got a G meter and all this kind of thing as well, which, you know, to be honest with you,
you're never going to use in roads like this.
I'm not really that interested in how many G I'm pulling on a, you know.
But again, that's it, because you're never going to be pushing it that hard that the lateral G that you're creating is going to make a difference to your driving, really, is it?
No, and again, if I was, I think I'd probably be going beyond the limits of my capability.
Yes.
Anyway. Let's put it that way.
But no, it feels like a very confidence-inspiring car. It's got a very good weight to it. it's what, 200 odd kilograms, maybe heavier than my 996, but it doesn't feel that. It feels responsive. There's definitely a response to the steering that just I wasn't expecting. I was expecting it to be a little bit lighter, actually, a little bit less communicative. But no, I don't see what people are getting their haunches up about, to be honest.
I think each to their own, and you know, for me, I've always been I had a classic Jaguar for many years.
A Mark II, you were saying,
3.4.
Excellent.
Beautiful car, concourse almost.
Wow.
But for me, the important thing was to drive it.
I get the appeal of going out and let others experience it, but it's not a statue. It's a moving piece of machinery that should be experienced for what it was built to do.
Well, they're designed to go, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's well known that a car that sits in a garage that doesn't go anywhere actually probably is going to have more mechanical problems than one that does actually get driven.
Yeah, but eventually all the rubbers start to wear away, the pipes and that will start to corrode over time, and whilst it might seem good on paper to buy a car with 20,000, for example a 996 with 20,000 miles, I would be more wary of buying that than I would a 996 with 80 to 100,000 miles.
I absolutely agree.
Because I would imagine at that point it's been looked after and it's proven itself.
Yeah, and also as you say, I mean, if you're buying a car, particularly a performance car with some miles on it, it's been driven, but as long as you've got that provenance, or provenance I should say, of the file, and it's been looked after, and as I said to you earlier on, I'm fastidious when it comes to things like servicing. I will get this oil change and I will get the filters changed on this annually, even if I don't have to. I just think if I treat this well, it should treat me well, as in a sense. I mean, of course, any mechanical piece of kit, things are likely to go wrong, and you don't buy a Porsche thinking it's not going to cost you anything, because it will do. But again, we've had the conversation. Mechanically, though, they're pretty sound. They're pretty bulletproof.
They are fairly reliable. Certainly, obviously, the 996 has issues with bore score and IMS failure. But again, that big 2-inch thick folder tells me that everything has been looked after. Thankfully, because mine's a 1999 one, it's less prone to bore score. It's not to say that it's impossible for it to happen, but I've got that peace of mind. I have a sticker in the doorway that tells me that the IMS has been replaced, despite the fact it was a dual row one that was in the earlier ones, which again were less prone to potentially going wrong.
No, again, and that's important, and I think having that sort of that history, the Jag I had was a full nut and bolt restoration, and I had all the pictures of it. But again, you know, a lot of people said to me, "Oh, Charlie, you know, you shouldn't be driving it. In the wet." And it's like, well, why have the car then?
Yeah,
and,
what is the point?
You know, why worry about putting miles on a car? Because the whole point of having it is to enjoy it by being in it.
Exactly.
I mean, I enjoy looking at it as well. Don't get me wrong, but it's far more fun sitting in it and driving than it is looking at it.
It is, yeah. If I wanted something to look at, why bother? Just get a shell. Get some wheels, get a shell, and I go out in my garage and
look at that. And it's nice to look at,
Exactly. It was like when I went out with Brian in his 370Z Nismo. He had spent an absolute fortune on that car. And he does the shows and whatever else, but he's like, I love driving it to let other people experience it. I love being able to see people drive past me, and at least 2 or 3 individuals had stopped him and went, "That's a lovely car you've got there," which he wouldn't get if he was only taking it to shows.
Well, that's the whole point. And I did this thing a couple of weeks ago at Thurleston Castle called the Sporting Bears, which again is a charity, and people pay to have a drive in a dream car, for want of a better word. And you know, I was taking people out, and I took out this sort of 12, 13-year-old kid, and you know, he was really good fun, and he said, "Look, just to let you know, I'm not scared of speed."
Okay.
Right, okay. You know, obviously you need to be careful when you're in a car like, you know,
with somebody else's child.
Someone else's child, and you don't want to overdo things. But you know, we sort of kind of did it wasn't a full, what do you call it, start thing, but I put my foot down and within the speed limit,
of course.
But you know, accelerated, and just the grin on his face was,
I bet
for
you
me,
made that kid's day at that point.
It's brilliant. It's just such fun, and you want children and people to, people like cars. They want that experience of being in them.
Exactly. I had a similar experience. One of the first times I went out to like a car meet with the 996, there was a young lad, he was probably maybe 10 to 12 years of age, and his dad came over and he was like, oh, this is my son's favourite car. And I'm like, jump in the driver's seat.
Yeah,
turned
start
it on.
Yeah.
And give it a wee rev. And his dad's like, not too much, not too much. I'm like, no, give it a wee rev, don't worry. And afterwards, his dad came, he was like, really, thank you very much for doing that. My son really enjoyed that. And I said, well, it's part of these moments that a lot of the younger generation aren't into cars as much.
No.
And it's trying to get people who are to know that the car community is an incredibly welcoming place.
Absolutely, and that to me is really important. And what was really interesting about the Thurleston show is I took out, I was booked all day, so I was literally in, turn around, back out again. But every single person that I took out was a car person, and they enjoyed just being in the car, and they had some knowledge about cars. They enjoyed it. So, and you go and you can speak to anyone. It doesn't matter what their car, what their passion is, whether it be Japanese cars, German cars, Ferraris, whatever. It's still, there's still that commonality, isn't there?
Exactly, yeah. And it's the best thing that I have found since starting this channel is just getting out and speaking to other petrol heads who just can sit for an hour and just talk cars.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been an incredibly welcoming experience, and I'm really, really thankful that you've given me the opportunity to get out and trusting me with your pride and joy. So I thank you very much for that.
It's been a pleasure. Charles. It's always nice to have other people drive it, and actually it's interesting to see what your thoughts are in comparison to your 996, and to see how things have changed and moved on to a degree, but it's, I suppose my question to you would be, do you feel that this car is still a 911? Does it still have that 911 essence?
It definitely does, yeah. It feels, it still has the communicative steering and that throttle response. I feel that because when you're staring out the front of these cars, because of the haunches and the flares, they just all feel very similar,
Yes.
But this has definitely, it doesn't feel too much of a far departure, and I can see where the DNA that you were talking about earlier on has continued. It is wider, it does feel bigger, but at the same time it's confidence inspiring.
Yeah.
It makes you feel pleasure driving it.
Yeah.
And that is the number one thing that the 996 does, is it makes you feel like it goads you almost into driving it,
Yes. And you can do that.
And that was effortless, absolutely effortless. I barely tickled the accelerator there, got up to 60, no bother at all. And yeah, it is, having the additional power is nice for sure. I would say that the 996 is only around about 300 brake horsepower, and you do feel it. You do have not a lack of power because you've got less weight, but this is just instant go.
Yes.
There's zero hesitation with this, and I think this is what I prefer about this over the 996. I would say the 996 is maybe just a little bit more engaging to drive, a little bit more communicative, and you feel like you're involved a little bit more. But this is just the throttle response. The brakes are phenomenal.
The brakes are phenomenal.
And it just, as we were talking about earlier on, the weight in the back, you're always aware of it.
Yes.
But that is what makes a 911 a 911.
That's the whole point of it, exactly.
And even though it is a heavier car, you can feel the composure through those back wheels. There we have it, guys. That's us back in the car park after taking out Charles's exquisite 991.1. And wow, what an improvement Porsche have managed to make over the last 10 to 15 years since the 996 and the 997 was released, and it was just a fantastic car. You've definitely got yourself a keeper in your hands here. So thank you very much for your time there, Charles.
Well,
I really appreciate it. I really did, yeah. So guys, if you've liked today's video, please make sure to call shotgun on the next one by liking this video and subscribing to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next road trip. All the best. Excellent, mate.
Brilliant.
Spot on. Thank you very much.